Hi, I'm Sierra Linquist. I'm currently studying marketing at FGCU's College of Business. At FGCU, we care a lot about sustainability, so I decided to volunteer through FGCU's Sustainability Department under a title of an event called Upcycling, which honestly I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but it turned out to be a great eye-opening experience for me. When I first arrived, there were only 3 other people. Miss Patty was there, and she explained to us exactly what we were doing. We were taking old t-shirts and turning them into reusable bags, where we cut the neckline, the shoulders off, cut about an inch up, and little fringes at the bottom, tied them together to make reusable bags. We did this in an effort to fight against single-use plastics. Quite frankly, single-use plastics all plastics are destroying our environment and putting our lives at risk. After that first meeting, I was curious as to what actually does plastic do to our environments. Like most people, I know that there's straw, plastic bag, micro bead bans. I know to stay away from BPAs. I know that plastics never actually break down or biodegrade and they stay in our environment for a long time. But I never actually truly thought about the actual effects of plastics on our environment. After reading a few things here and there, I found an organization called Plastic Oceans. They were founded by a group of blue whale researchers who were out in the ocean searching for blue whales and instead found copious amounts of plastic. Plastic Oceans is a 501c nonprofit organization who works to educate the public on the effects of plastics and hopes to inspire people and to incite action to help resolve these issues. In their documentary, I learned that we produce more than 300 million tons of plastic per year. We use 20 million plastic water bottles every day. 4,000 plastic bottles are used every second. It takes 63 billion gallons of oil to produce enough plastic to support the US for only 1 year for plastic bottles. More than 8 million tons of plastic is dumped into our oceans every year. Of all plastics, 50%, that's half, is single use. The typical useful lifespan of plastic averages at 12 minutes. Let that sink in. In the documentary produced by Plastic Oceans and Leonardo DiCaprio, they showcase all of the ways that plastic actually affects our environment. I personally feel as though the visuals are far more impactful than any of the statistics I could tell you. Also, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Big Trash Island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where typically you would see an article talking about it and you see just miles of trash as far as the eye can see across the ocean surface. While this place is real, it's not what you think. It is actually consisted of microplastics. So in the North Pacific Gyre, which is one of our 5 gyres on our globe, and gyres are basically just kind of like the center of our currents. So the Earth rotates, we have wind currents, ocean currents, and it creates kind of like a circular motion, and everything that kind of goes into these currents will eventually make its way to the center, which is in the center of the North Pacific Gyre. There's just a ton of garbage, and you wouldn't be able to see it because most debris sink to the bottom of the ocean. Majority of them do. But the other ones, the buoyant plastics, end up turning into microplastics if they weren't already microplastics. And when the team was there, they dropped down a net-like contraption about 3 feet wide, maybe 6 feet long. They just dragged it for not very long at all. They pulled it up, and there was just an insane amount of small bits of plastic within that short period of time. In the Plastic Ocean documentary, they show that not only are animals in the water consuming these microplastics, also birds are. They digested the stomachs of multiple birds and found that they were literally firm and stuffed full of broken bits of plastic, and that these birds more than likely died of starvation, that their bellies were full, they couldn't get any food in them, they couldn't digest the plastic, so their bellies were full, but they were starving to death. This has also been known to happen with whales because they just scoop gallons, hundreds of gallons of water, and consume smaller organisms, and they can't decipher between that and plastic. In a technical paper published by the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, also referred to as the FAO, defines microplastics as any plastic item smaller than 5 millimeters in its longest direction. These can either be manufactured that way, which are nurdles, which is basically kind of like raw plastic, which is basically like little white beads that look like fish eggs in a sense. Or they can be bigger pieces that are broken down by UV, oceanic movement, salt, or heat, which turns those bigger pieces of plastic into microplastics. Also, within this paper, the FAO says that persistent bioaccumulative toxic contaminants, also known as PBTs are attracted to plastic, which includes microplastics. These microplastics are then ingested by aquatic organisms and absorbed by them, the PBTs are, and then those aquatic organisms are digested and consumed by other aquatic organisms, which eventually can work their way all the way up to us, which means that those PBTs can be passed all the way up to us, all the way through the food chain. However, they do make it clear that evidence of PBT absorption has only been documented in lab settings under high exposure that is not equivalent to today's current environmental conditions. In the paper released by the FAO, they discuss one of the really big issues of plastics, which is how it affects our health. All plastics contain additives, and those additives are to help serve their end purpose. Such additives can be phthalates, BPAs, flame retardants, and nonylphenols. All of these are endocrine disruptors, which hinder your metabolism, reproduction, and especially it hinders early childhood development. While most products say that they're BPA free, that does not guarantee that they aren't free of all endocrine disruptors. In the Plastic Oceans film or documentary, they speak to a plastic additive expert, and he says that basically all plastics have endocrine disruptors in them. They have some form of additive that does the same thing as BPAs. So just because something is labeled as safe does not mean that it actually is. And the best alternatives are things like foil instead of plastic wraps, to use glass bottles. Stainless steel is okay unless if there's color added, and if there's color added, then those colors typically give off endocrine disruptors as well. To solve this issue, we all need to think about ways to reduce plastic consumption. Without the reduction in demand for plastic goods, we will continue to face bigger issues in the future. While Patty intended for us volunteers to cut t-shirts, we sadly ended up running out of t-shirts to cut because we only had so many to donate. However, we got to start an entirely new project with the same goal: beeswax wraps. So these basically replace the need for saran wrap and sandwich baggies. So this guy can get folded up real nice and easy around a peanut butter and jelly sandwich per se. Or if you cut a bowl of fruit and you need to put it in the fridge, this is a great little topper, and it basically molds and forms with the heat of your hands. I personally got to cut a lot of these out with pinking shears. You use 100% cotton, and then you heat up between 2 pieces of parchment paper, beeswax, jojoba oil, and pine resin. And pine resin gives it kind of a good, nice grip, so that way it actually sticks to things, and beeswax is what gives it kind of that waxy texture, of course, and jojoba oil kind of softens it so it's a little bit more pliable. Things that I personally do in my home to help reduce my plastic usage is I use things like glass bottles instead of plastic. I also have my own cleaning products that I make. This is just 2 parts water, 1 part vinegar, and essential oils for mostly the smell, I guess. And that always does the trick. Also having reusable bags instead of plastic bags. In this particular reusable bag I keep all of my microfiber towels because I don't use paper towels. They're cost effective and they work a lot better than paper towels do. Eventually these all go to the wash. But other than that, I kind of just want to challenge everyone to see what you guys can do to reduce your own plastic consumption and kind of ask yourself, do I really care about this issue? Is this something that you actually care about? Or if you do want to learn more, I know most people do have Netflix, and their documentary was just Plastic Oceans. If you look that up, you can find out a lot about what exactly it does, and I strongly believe that seeing everything in the documentary is going to be able to explain a lot more than what any numbers or explanations I can give to you.